Act 4, Into the Unknown. Chapter 22, Burials and Beginnings. The rhythmic scrape of my knife against fish scales is oddly soothing. It's been, 2 days since the attack? 3? Time's a blur, but at least this mindless, familiar task feels normal. As normal as anything can feel when half the village is in ruins and we're still preparing our dead for burial. We lost over half our tribe, and now, not all, but the majority of the half we kept alive, are children and elders. I pause, wiping sweat from my brow with the back of my hand. The stench of smoke and decay hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of what we've lost. Ansel, Tornu, Norn, Kalira, Quovac, Rymud, dozens of others. Roan's breath, we've all been working ourselves to the bone. Caldo's helping carve up our fresh kills. Zolesh is teaching more of our warriors his fighting techniques, as if that'll help if another horde of Dracoliths decides to pay us a visit. And me? I'm here cleaning fish and boiling water, the only things I really know how to do well, and it seemed to bring me some semblance of comfort these last few days. Being back to being useless. No, not useless. Tornu wouldn't want me thinking like that. This work needs doing too. But fuck, it's hard not to feel helpless. I grab another fish, my movement's automatic. Slice, scrape, gut. Slice, scrape, gut. As I work, I can't help but notice Ekra moving through the village. She's everywhere these days, offering comfort here, giving orders there, always with that same determined look in her eyes. "We must strengthen our defenses," I hear her telling a group of warriors. "Build the palisade higher. Dig trenches. We can't risk another attack." I grit my teeth, trying to focus on my task, but her words needle at me. Higher walls, deeper trenches. It's all about keeping the outside world at bay. What about Tornu's teachings? What about exploring, learning? "Yorin," a voice cuts through my brooding. It's Melnin, looking exhausted but determined. "We need more clean water for the wounded. Can you—" I nod, grateful for the distraction. On it. As I head to Lifespring Lake, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. I glance towards the forest edge, half expecting to see glowing eyes or gnashing teeth. But there's nothing. Just shadows and leaves. Get a grip, Yorin. It's just your imagination. Still, the sensation persists. Is it trauma from the attack, or something else? I shake my head, trying to clear it, focus on what's real, what's here. Like the fact that Lolly's still missing. No sign of her since before the attack. Part of me hopes she made it out somehow, found safety elsewhere. Another part, well, maybe in a way she got what was coming to her. But despite our history, there's a small aching part of me that might actually miss her. That can't be right. No, it's probably just the loss I feel from losing Tornu and Ansel spilling out into her absence. I feel the water skins, my mind drifting to the lake, to that strange power I felt. Where was that strength when we were fighting for our lives? When Tornu was killed? When Ansel was being torn apart? Useless. Just like me. No, stop it. This isn't helping anyone. I'm not useless anymore. I fought a horde of Dracoliths and survived. But I have to keep reminding myself that. Because I can't help but wonder what the point of it is if I couldn't save the people closest to me. I straighten up, water skins heavy in my hands, and turn back towards the village center. Ekra's there again, talking with some of the newly appointed elders. Not more than 40 cycles old. Young compared to Ekra's 60-something. Their heads are bowed together. Voices low. Planning something? Probably. And I'd bet my last scrap of meat it's nothing good for those of us who want to look beyond our borders. As I pass, Ekra's eyes meet mine. There's a challenge there, a question. Whose side are you on, Yorin? I look away first, quickening my pace. I made a promise to Tornu, to see the world beyond our borders. But how can I leave when my people are suffering, when Ekra's vision of isolation is taking hold? The weight of the water skins feels like nothing compared to the choices looming before me. Stay and fight Ekra's influence, or honor my promise to Tornu? For now, I push the thoughts aside. There are wounded to tend to, a village to rebuild. But sooner or later, I'll have to decide. And Pilly help me, I have no idea what the right choice is. The sun barely peeks over the horizon as we gather at the edge of the forest. The air is thick with the scent of burning herbs and the low, mournful chants of our elders. Today, we lay our dead to rest. I stand among my tribespeople, my chest tight with grief. So many faces missing, so many lives cut short. Tornu, Ansel, Quovac, Rymud, friends, family, all gone. Ekra steps forward, her face a mask of solemn authority. We gather today to return our fallen to the earth, she intones. May Tuck guide their spirits to the Vale. I grit my teeth, biting back a retort. Of course she'd lead the ceremony. Another fucking power play. The procession begins. One by one we carry our dead to the freshly dug graves. Each body is wrapped in a shroud made from their own tent hides, their last connection to our mortal world. As we lower them into the earth, the family members step forward to place personal items in the graves. Hunting tools, favorite trinkets, pieces of their lives to accompany them on their journey. When it's Tornu's turn, my legs feel like lead. I approach his grave, a small bone carving clutched in my hand. The last story he never finished telling. As I place it beside him, my vision blurs with tears. I'll keep my promise, I whisper, my voice cracking. I swear it. Ansel's burial is next. Ekra steps forward, holding his chief's staff. For a moment, I think she's going to place it in the grave. Instead, she grips it tightly, her knuckles white. Ansel led us with wisdom and strength, she declares. We honor his memory by staying true to his vision, by protecting our people at all costs. My blood boils. That's not what Ansel would have wanted. Not entirely. But before I can speak up, Caldo places a hand on my shoulder, shaking his head slightly. Now's not the time. The burials continue, each one a fresh wound. As the last body is laid to rest, Melnin steps forward with a clay pot. We offer this mixture of earth and life-spring water, she says, her voice steady despite her tear-stained cheeks, to bind our fallen to this land forever. She moves from grave to grave, sprinkling the mixture over each body. As she does, we begin to sing, a low, haunting melody that speaks of loss and hope, and Tuck's guidance through the eternal plains. Guide them to the labyrinth. O Tuck, guide these souls. If learning still is needed, guide them through the fold. Guide them to the Vale, Tuck. O Tuck, guide our kin. Eternal peace with generations within. Or guide them to Alara. O Tuck, guide them home. To live again in this land, Tuck, guide them to Rome. But guide Tuck, away from the void. O anywhere but there, Tuck, better their souls destroyed. In shadow's depths and starlit skies, we sing for those with closing eyes. To a place unknown, our kin released. O ancients, guide their souls to peace. Earth and root and all below, carry our kin so all may grow. To vale or labyrinth you go. Tuck, keep them from the void as we place them low. Guide them to the labyrinth. O Tuck, guide these souls. If learning is needed, guide them through the fold. Guide them to the Vale, Tuck. O Tuck, guide our kin. Eternal peace with generations within. Or guide them to Alara. O Tuck, guide them home. To live again in this land. Tuck, guide them to Rome. But guide Tuck, away from the void. O anywhere but there, Tuck, better their soul destroyed. The song swells and I find myself swept up in it. My voice joins the chorus, raw with emotion. For a moment, all the conflicts and fears fade away. We're united in our grief, in our remembrance. As the final notes fade, Ekra raises her hands. Now we seal the graves, she commands. Let the earth embrace our fallen. We move forward as one, shovels in hand. The sound of earth hitting the shrouds is deafening in the morning quiet. With each shovelful, I feel like I'm burying a piece of myself. When it's done, when the last grave is filled, we stand in silence. The weight of our loss settles over us like a heavy cloak. Ekra breaks the silence. We have honored our dead. Now we must honor their sacrifice by ensuring the safety of the living. We will build. We will fortify. We will remember their dreams. I find myself saying, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. There's more spite and bitterness laced in my words than a serpent has venom laced in its kiss. I wish my words were venom at this point. All eyes turn to me, and I swallow hard. But I've started, so I might as well finish. Tornu, Ansel, they didn't just want us to survive. They wanted us to live, to grow, to explore. For a moment, there's stunned silence. Then murmurs ripple through the crowd. Some nod in agreement, others look uncertain. Ekra's eyes narrow, but before she can respond, Zolesh steps forward. Yoren speak true, he says, his accent thick with emotion. We honor dead by living, by learning, by growing strong. The murmurs grow louder. I see hope flickering in some eyes, fear in others. Ekra opens her mouth to speak, but Caldo cuts her off. Enough, he says, his voice weary but firm. This is a day for remembrance, not debate. Let us return to the village and share a meal in honor of our fallen. As we make our way back, I feel the weight of eyes on me. Some approving, some wary. Ekra's gaze burns into my back, a clear warning. I've crossed a line today, challenged her authority, however subtly. There's no going back now. As we enter the village, I glance back at the forest of fresh graves. So much lost, so much at stake. Whatever comes next, I know one thing for certain. I won't let their sacrifices be in vain. One way or another, I'll find a way to honor both the living and the dead. The smell of roasting meat fills the air as we gather around the communal fire pit. It's a bittersweet scent, the spoils of our victory mixed with the sorrow of our loss. Dracolith meat. Who would have thought we'd ever be eating the very beasts that nearly destroyed us? I settle onto a log, my wooden plate laden with an odd assortment of foods. Herb-crusted fish, root vegetables, and a large chunk of Dracolith meat that looks almost unappetizing in its foreign texturing. But food is food, and we need our strength. And if I'm honest, I'm a little more than eager to tear into the flesh the way they tore into my kin. Zolesh clearly has no issue with it, as he practically inhales every last bit. But why would he? His people hunt these things, have for generations. For him, this is just a taste of home. As I take my first bite of Dracolith, I can't help but grimace. It's gamey, tough, with an aftertaste that lingers unpleasantly. Is this what victory tastes like? Somehow I expected it to be sweeter. Around me, the subdued murmur of conversation rises and falls. Stories of the fallen are shared between bites, laughter mingling with tears as we remember those we've lost. It should feel comforting, this shared grief. Instead, I feel disconnected, like I'm watching it all from a great distance. Zolesh plops down beside me, his plate piled high with more meat. "Eat, cousin," he grunts, nodding at my barely touched food. "You need strength." I force myself to take another bite, chewing mechanically. "For what?" I mutter. "More fighting? More death?" Zolesh's eyes narrow. "For living," he says firmly. "For honoring vow to Tornu." I glance around, making sure no one's listening. "And how exactly am I supposed to do that? In case you haven't noticed, Ekra's got half the tribe ready to wall us in for good." As if summoned by my words, Ekra's voice rises above the general chatter. She's standing now, addressing the gathered tribe. "Let us raise our cups," she calls out, "to those who gave their lives by protecting our home. We honor them by staying strong, by staying safe, by staying put." The emphasis on those last three words, and the way her eyes flick over to meet mine and linger there, tells me exactly who she's talking to. A chorus of agreement ripples through the crowd. I see heads nodding, faces set with grim determination. Roan's breath, she's good at this. "To safety," the tribe echoes, raising their cups. I lift mine sarcastically, and begin pouring out the rest of my water on the ground beside me, as the rest of the tribe drinks theirs, the words bitter on my tongue. Safety. As if closing ourselves off from the world will keep us safe. As if we haven't just seen how fucking fragile our illusion of safety really is. The spilling water doesn't go unnoticed. Ekra's gaze follows the water as it falls from my wood cup, and her eyes narrow, darting up angrily to meet mine. I don't budge. Not this time. I return her cold glare with my own, channeling every ounce of anger and hatred I have inside me to pierce through her spirit. As the last drop of water hits the ground, I notice her hands trembling, and her eyes have not left mine. A vicious, calculating glare that she clings to, until I finally let my empty cup fall and hit the muddy ground with a wet thunk. Ekra turns sharply and storms away. That's what I fucking thought. As the meal winds down, I find myself drifting to the edge of the gathering. The weight of unspoken words, of decisions yet to be made. It sits heavy in my gut. What am I supposed to do now? "Yorin?" I turn to see Melnin approaching, her face lined with worry. She gestures for me to follow her, moving away from the crowd. Once we're out of earshot, she turns to me, her voice low and urgent. "Listen to me. If you're going to keep that promise you made to Tornu, you need to leave. Soon." I blink, taken aback by her directness. "Leave? But the tribe will survive," she cuts me off. "But you? Yorin, I've seen the way Ekra looks at you, the way she talks about you when you're not around. This rivalry between you two, it's not going to end well." My heart races. What are you saying? Melnin's eyes are sad but determined. "I'm saying that Ekra sees you as a threat, and I'm afraid she might take drastic measures to remove that threat." The implication hits me like a boulder to the chest. "I think she'd do whatever she believes is necessary to protect the tribe," Melnin says carefully. "Even if that means removing dissenting voices." I stare at her, my mind reeling. Could Ekra really go that far? But even as I ask myself the question, my mind takes me back to that day on the lake when I nearly drowned. Yes, she could. But where would I go? I ask, hating how small my voice sounds, how much it reminds me of a younger, weaker version of myself. What would I do? Melnin squeezes my shoulder. That's for you to figure out, Yoren. But whatever you decide, do it soon. And be careful. As she walks away, leaving me alone with my thoughts, I gaze out to the forest beyond our village. The world Tornu wanted me to see. The world that suddenly seems more terrifying than ever. Leave Takakin. Leave everything I've ever known. The thought sends a shiver down my spine. Isn't that what I've wanted? What I begged Tornu for? Maybe not forever, but at least to see it all. But as I look back at the gathering, at Ekra holding court among our grieving people, I realize Melnin might be right. If I stay, I might never leave. And worse, I might not live long enough to try. As the gathering disperses, I find Kyra sitting by the old oak tree where Tornu used to tell his stories. The setting sun paints the sky in hues of orange and purple, casting long shadows across her face. She looks up as I approach, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Remember when we used to climb this tree?" she asks as I settle beside her. "Chiron always got to the top first." My heart aches at the mention of her brother. Yeah, and I always ended up stuck halfway up, too scared to go higher. At least when we were little. We share a quiet laugh, tinged with sadness. For a moment, we're just kids again, free from the weight of all we've lost. "Kyra," I start, my voice soft. I need to tell you something. She turns to me, her eyes searching mine as she interrupts me, guessing at the rest of the sentence I'm struggling so hard to say. "You're leaving again, aren't you?" She's not wrong, but she hasn't guessed what I intended to say. I nod, swallowing hard. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. Zolesh and I we thought we had to act fast." Kyra's silent for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns in the dirt. "I understand," she says finally. "Chiron would have wanted to go with you, you know. Would have wanted me to go with you. He always dreamed of seeing what was beyond our borders. And you? What do you want?" I ask, my heart racing. "What do you dream of, Kyra?" She looks up at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I dream of a world where we don't have to fear the next attack. Where we can build something lasting, something beautiful." She pauses, taking a shaky breath. "And yes, I dream of seeing what's out there too." "Then come with me," I say, taking her hand in mine. "We could do this together, Kyra. See the world, find answers. You're strong, skilled. We'd make a great team." For a moment, I see longing in her eyes, a flicker of the adventure-seeking girl I grew up with. But then she shakes her head, squeezing my hand. "I can't, Yoren. As much as I want to. Someone needs to stay, to protect what's left, to remember." Her voice breaks on the last word. The weight of her decision settles over both of us. She's right, of course, but the thought of leaving her behind. "I'll come back," I promise, my voice thick with emotion. "I swear it, Kyra. I'll find answers, and I'll come back for you." She manages a watery smile. "You better. Someone's got to keep you out of trouble." Then, more seriously, "Be careful out there, Yoren. The world, it's not the same as in Tornu's stories." I nod, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. We sit in silence for a while, watching the last light fade from the sky. There's so much I want to tell her. How she's becoming more than just Chiron's sister to me. More than just the girl I grew up playing in the lake and taking honey from beehives with. But the words stick in my throat. As I stand to leave, Kyra rises with me. Without warning, she pulls me into a fierce hug. "May the Ancient Ones watch over you," she whispers, her breath warm against my ear. I hold her tight, memorizing the feel of her in my arms, the scent of pine and honeysuckle in her soft, dark hair. When we finally part, I see a determination in her eyes that wasn't there before. "Find the answers we need," she says, her voice cracking as she wipes a tear from her eye. "And Yoren, don't forget us while you're out there seeing the world." "Never," I vow, my own voice all but shattering. "You're my home, Kyra. All of you. I could never forget." As I walk away, every step feels like I'm leaving a piece of myself behind, but I have to do this. For Tornu, for our people, for Kyra, and maybe, just maybe, for the person I might become out there in the unknown. The person Kyra deserves to hear those words from, that I can't yet bring myself to say. As I turn from the old oak, my heart heavy with fear and longing, a familiar voice calls out to me. "Yoren, child. A moment, if you please." I look up to see Jola, her ancient form silhouetted against the fading light. Thank Roan she survived. At least my tribe will have one wise storyteller among them. Despite her age, her eyes are sharp as ever, piercing me with their intensity. But there's something different about her stance. a slight tremor in her hands that wasn't there before. "Jola," I say, approaching her with concern. "Are you all right? You seem—" She holds up a gnarled hand, silencing me. The tremor is more noticeable now.
"I know where you're going, young one. But before you leave, there's one last story you need to hear."
I glance toward my hut, where my meager belongings await, then back to Jola. Something in her voice compels me to stay. I nod, settling down beside her, noticing how she lowers herself with more difficulty than usual. Jola's voice takes on a rhythmic quality, as it always does when she's about to share something of great importance, though I catch a slight quiver in her words.
"Long ago, when Taka first settled these lands, a prophecy was whispered on the wind. It has been passed down through generations, spoken only in times of great change."
She leans in close, her breath smelling of herbs and something else, something sickly sweet that I can't quite place.
"Listen well, Yoren. I believe these words are meant for you. He that leaves shall meet the world, and learn from each unique piece. When all the world is met by him, return he shall, bringing healing and relief. With knowledge gained from far and wide, the tribe shall mend, but healing costs a price. For wisdom comes with greatest toll, and power demands a sacrifice."
A chill runs down my spine as Jola's words settle over me. I notice her pausing to catch her breath, her chest rising and falling more rapidly than it should. "What does it mean?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Jola's eyes seem to look through me, to something far beyond, momentarily unfocused before snapping back.
"That, child, is for you to discover. The path ahead is long and fraught with danger. But know this, your journey is not just for you, but for all of us."
She reaches out, her weathered hand cupping my cheek. I can feel the slight shake in her touch.
"Go now, Yoren. Meet the world. Learn its ways. And when the time comes, return to us. We will be waiting."
I stand, my mind reeling from Jola's words. As I turn to go, she calls out one last time, her voice faltering slightly.
"Remember, young one, the greatest changes often come at the greatest cost. Be prepared to pay the price for the wisdom you seek."
With those ominous words ringing in my ears, I make my way to my hut, more certain than ever of the importance of my journey, yet more afraid than ever of what it might cost me. And behind it all, a new worry gnaws at me. What else might I lose while I'm gone?